Chris, thanks. We're here at Realcomm Live. Chris Bottger in the Cisco Devices Group. Tell us your formal title here at Cisco.
So actually I lead our hybrid workplace experience, go-to-market and strategy for our device technology group.
There you go. That's hard.
Specifically the video collaboration devices.
Hard to get on one card, guys. I'm in the America's Partner Organization. I'm a business development manager for architect, engineering, construction firms for hybrid work. And like I said earlier, we're here at Realcomm Live, and I wanted to take a few minutes and visit with you.
Yeah, sounds good.
Great. Well, you know, when we talk about hybrid work, you hear about 15 different definitions.
You do.
For that topic. And you have like 24 people who say, hey, we're embracing hybrid work. We have something on our phone. It's an app. You can reserve a room. There you go. Our car park, maybe some desserts and drinks. But in reality, it's not about that, do you think?
So the thing is, I think people get confused is, you know, work is not where you go, but work is what you do. And I think what we have to do is we have to reimagine the workplaces that we're in and then reimagine how we sort of do work. And there's some very specific things around there, which is if I look at hybrid work of an employee moving around from the home or to the office and back again,
sure.
How do you deliver an experience that drives them to be engaged so they feel that they're included in the meeting and are able to be productive?
Interesting. So reimagining your workspaces, how you engage with your employees, is because we're at work at home, at an office or collaboration center and on the go, and we have to have all trusted security protocols throughout all that experience, right? So if it's not hybrid work per se, and it's not where you go, it's what you do.
Correct.
So what I heard you say earlier in one of the sessions is that Cisco does 4 things very, very well. You help people connect, communicate, collaborate, and automate.
Right.
And when you accomplish those, you also unlock positivity in 4 distinct areas: technically, financially, sustainably, and functionally. Tell us more about those.
That's a wide topic.
Let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
Double click on any one you want.
So I think, okay, so I'm going to start it from the human aspect in terms of what makes me want to go into the office. Now, I think it's fair to say that the majority of companies don't know how to do this. So what do? They enforce mandates. You must come back into the office, Steve. Now, Cisco, we're 87,000 employees. We don't have a mandate, we have magnets. So we've redone a lot of our offices and did all the 4 things basically that you've just said. So let me be fairly specific about that.
Sure.
So when you walk into, for example, if you're in the office itself, the video devices, collaboration device that we have are smart devices. So they have a huge amount of AI built into them, so you don't have to think about certain things. Again, we heard in the session this morning where it's like people walk into a room with video and have no idea what to touch or anything else. In our case, you can choose not to touch anything. The system will know somebody's in there. If there's a meeting coming up, it will prompt and actually say, from a voice perspective, do you want to join this meeting, yes or no?
Wow.
Otherwise, there's a green button, and it doesn't matter whether it's a Microsoft meeting, a Google meeting, a Zoom meeting, or a WebEx meeting, you'll have a green button to go and connect. So that makes it easy to get into a meeting. Now, it goes a lot further than that. So in terms of, we're here at Realcomm, so a lot of it is about smart buildings and AI as well, but also smart office, also smart room. So our devices can be integrated into the room, lights and shades, for example, automatically, directly, and then can control those so that you then have, when somebody walks into the room, the system says, okay, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 people, however many it is. It will count those people from the camera image and then feed that into controlling the environment, which could also be connecting into the building management system, again, to tell the air handling units, 10 people have just walked in. You touched on sustainability.
Yeah.
Think about the energy savings, when you have everything running over PoE. That's the connect piece that we have. So we have the PoE power over Ethernet switches, and then think about being able to control that and the energy saving that you have. I'll give you a specific example.
Go ahead.
We redid our Pen 1 office during the pandemic. We took out 5,000 pounds of steel and copper and aluminium purely by taking it from high voltage to low voltage.
Well, hang on. So Cisco has a solution around hybrid work, but we're eating our own cooking as well for our own, because we're a large corporate occupier.
87,000 people.
Incredible. Keep going.
So I think, yes. So one of the, again, from an outcomes perspective, Cisco's been has won Best Workplace to Be globally multiple years in a row in 15 different countries. Now, it's not just because we've got great collaboration devices, I'd like to say that, but it's a trifecta in there. So one is that, yes, it's the rewards that you get of being in there, it's how the company cares, but it's also then how can I do my job in a way that makes me feel engaged, that makes me feel included, that makes me not want to go and leave.
So we re-engaged the employees at Cisco. What's the outcome for Cisco then? The ability to attract and retain talent?
That's exactly it.
That's it right there.
Yeah, I mean, industry-wise, we're running about half the attrition rate in our industry compared to our peers.
I heard we hire about 1,900 people a quarter.
Yeah.
Today?
Yeah, that's today, yes.
That's very interesting. So I heard functionally and technically, and you touched on sustainability. Where's the financial piece in all this? Are we able to shrink our real estate footprint and get more out of less?
Yeah, so in fact, if I go back to Pen 1, that
Sure.
example in there, so because we have data before and after, so before the pandemic, some interesting stats here, before the pandemic, we had about 140 people badge in per day.
Respectable?
Yes, we then spend all this money to create it into a brand new low voltage, energy efficient environment.
And then what happened there?
Cut 60% of our energy bill.
Like that?
Think about that.
Love it.
And then post-pandemic, we have 140 people badge in per day.
Huh. But if you had deeper insights, what did we find out?
That's where it gets interesting.
I'm
So-
leading the
You are leading the witness. So before the pandemic, the 140 people per day, there would be about 200, 220 unique badge-ins per month.
Yeah.
After the pandemic, 650 unique badge-ins per month.
Wait a minute, we shrunk the square footage of that space.
And
more people are able to pass through
more
it?
people pass through.
It's incredible.
True hybrid work.
So reimagining your workspaces can lead to those efficiencies.
Can lead
right
to
there.
those. But then, when people go in to collaborate, the devices that we have, and we don't have enough time to probably go into all the details, that makes it so engaging. But there's a massive amount. We've had NVIDIA chips in our devices, the only ones in the industry since 2015. So there's an enormous amount of learning data from how to frame people and what have you. So a lot of customers will look at this and say, yeah, I got those checkbox marks, from competitive devices as well.
Sure.
But if they don't drive the experience, you don't get the engagement. If you don't get the engagement, you don't get the productivity.
Typical waterfall effect on how
Typical
everyone
one,
makes
yeah.
out if we create a win-win situation.
Right.
Now you touched on NVIDIA. I know that they help us, but we have our own perspective because we're also here at Buildings AI. Tell us a little bit about what that's going on.
Yeah, so on the NVIDIA side, so think about it from a Cisco, you've got fundamentally a networking, security, and collaboration company.
That's our core?
Fundamentally, that's our core. So, if you look at it just from an AI perspective, you think about the amount of data that has to flow in and out of the AI engine to do all of this processing. That obviously helps Cisco from a networking perspective. That's one piece. But you take those chips and you put them into our video devices and our collaboration, and now they become smart devices. So what I often try and say to people is, it's the same as the telephone. How many people are using flip phones these days? You're not. You went to a smartphone.
Right.
So today, most customers think a video device is just a video device. It is with our competitors, but from us, it's a smart device, so it can integrate into the building. It can drive human behavior so that you do feel engaged.
So the devices themselves have a sensing capability, and you can somehow collect the data.
Yeah.
Not only is it a video screen that you're using to send and receive and collaborate, but they have sensing capabilities. Talk a little bit about how, if we went through the attract and retain talent at Pen 1, the sustainability goals, and our health and wellness, tell us about digitizing real estate and what that means for us.
Right, so again, I'm going to go back to because I'm always focused on the use case aspect. So most companies, if they wanted to get people to come back to the office, they would say, okay, I've got to create a really great environment, which we've done here from a Cisco perspective in a number of our offices, or I've got to do a mandate.
Yeah.
So, however, if the only reason most people would want to go to the office today is because they want to collaborate, or they want to meet, or they want to socialize. However, people don't realize that actually sitting at home and in your own home environment is actually, in the majority of the cases, far less healthy than being in the office.
Oh, this I got to hear. Chris, tell me. Tell me what this is all
specific.
about.
So if you're in your own space, whether it's a bedroom or whatever, you'll be shocked how quickly the carbon dioxide actually goes up in that environment. So in my own home office, where I do actually have forced air, I will double from a typical background CO2, which is 400 or 500 parts per million, to well over 1,000. Now what happens is my Cisco Desk Pro video device, collaboration device, is now giving me a message telling me when that happens to then say, Chris, open up a door.
Interesting.
Or if outside temperature is conducive, it might say, open up the window.
So you're telling me that the devices are consistent across whether you're at home, on the go, a Desk Pro, a Desk Mini, even on our phones. But if it has that, if it's one of those endpoint collaboration devices with that sensing, it's going to. I don't have to be on the Cisco network. I can be home on my network. It still has that capability to show the individual user how their health and wellness is in their home.
So now what is it going to do? And a good example of that, we kept on talking about New York here as well.
Yeah.
So in the spring of this year, we had some significant smoke being exported down into New York. That was so bad that people could actually physically see it.
I was there one of those days.
Right, so our employees in that area were then able to see what the environment was inside of our office and then made a decision, I'm going to go into the office because I can't now clear the dirty air that's in my apartment or whatever it is. They couldn't get away from it. So they went to the office where they could see that the air quality
So their
was
home
actually
device showed them where they were in their air quality, and they could look into, for instance, Pin 1 in New York and
In
say,
essence, yes.
it's going to be better for me to run to the office until this fire smoke blows over. That's incredible.
Yeah. Now take that one level further because you asked about sustainability as
did.
well. Okay, so there's this notion that the only thing that pollutes is commuting to the office. So think about the number of companies. Let's say you have let's say during the pandemic. So I'm 14 minutes from our Cisco Boxborough office. We'll hold 300 people. Nobody was there during the pandemic, but the office still had to be heated. So I live outside of Boston, in there. That's in the Boston area. It gets kind of chilly in the winter,
For sure.
depending on where you are. So now, think about that. So the office itself is being fully heated, and us 300 people that are living around there, each one of us is heating our own homes as well.
Oh my gosh. I never thought of the scale of what you're doing to just be remote.
Right, so now think about it, that same device can now drive your behavior so that, take my example, you know, my daughter's in college, my son's at school, my wife's working, so often I'm the only one in the house.
Right.
So my device, and we're running this as a sort of proof of concept from an AI perspective currently, will actually tell me, saying, hey Chris, looking at the weather tomorrow, you will save 85% more, it'll cost you 85% more energy to heat your space. So it learns what that is, and then what it does it do? It gives me a mitigating factor saying, why don't you consider going to the office? So how many other people, it could be another 200 people who now have the same message, who are now going to the office, and it is the 8.6 pounds of CO2 that it tells me it's going to cost me to go to the office is nothing compared to me having the heat on full instead of walking away and turning down my thermostat and spending that in the office that has to be heated anyway.
Incredible. And you know, when you have that deeper insights, is it like turning the kaleidoscope? We weren't able to gather this kind of insightful information previously.
You know, what's the famous saying is, if you're not measuring it, you can't manage it.
I think I heard
So
that.
it's the same thing, is if you don't measure the environment, but then you also have to have a method of being able to drive the user behavior. Again, we're in a real estate event here.
Right.
Most of the time, the real estate, the facilities people will have the raw data and they'll be focused on the analytics. How is this building being used? How many people are being in there and what have you? I, as an employee or a user, don't give a damn that our facilities people know all of that. It doesn't help me.
Right.
By the way, it doesn't help them. When they have a 5 or 10% occupancy rate, it doesn't help them either. That's not a very good long-term career-sustaining factor either in there.
It's almost they're working
So
themselves
you've got to
out of the
look at
job.
this. So now I'm driving the behavior of a user wanting to go to the office, A, because they want to collaborate or socialize, B, because it's better for their well-being, or C, specifically in urban areas where, I mean, I don't have transport, there's no public transport where I am. It's still more energy efficient for me to go into my pickup truck and drive to the office compared to heating the whole home.
So-
And it takes a different dynamic to it.
Good.
So now you're actually driving energy savings, and now we measure that inside of our control hub, which is a single pane of glass that measures all of the energy of all of our devices. And our network switches, PoE switches, measure all the energy of the devices that are connected in there. And then we make suggestions. We have things like office hours, for example, where from a sustainability perspective, we can say outside the office hours, please don't wake up. If the cleaner comes in, please don't wake up.
Right.
Don't show digital signage, don't do anything. And we then say how much energy and how much CO2 you will actually save. So if you're a company that has to do net zero calculations for the SEC, for those of that are watching it in the US,
Right.
boy, you have data there of the whole room and potentially the whole space that you can measure down to a granular level. Whereas most companies, if they're measuring it, what do? They have a power meter at their electrical panel, but they can't see beyond that. But if you put the fourth utility, OT, on IP, then you have the ability with all the Cisco devices to measure at the network level, but also at the collaboration device and drive user behavior. which is the key thing.
That was the key, guys. So at Realcomm, from a Cisco perspective, not only have we eaten our own cooking, we're doing it successfully and iterative, and that deeper data-driven insights or outcome-driven engineering drives positive outcomes both for the individual and for the organization. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it.